What better place to talk about classic versus new Broncos than Super Celebration East, the biggest Bronco event of the year. Although the classic and new Broncos are vastly different in terms of design, features, and technology, they share some things in common that make them true Bronco models. To start off, both generations were designed with ruggedness and versatility in mind, making them perfect for outdoor adventures. The early Bronco was originally built for off-roading and was equipped with features such as four-wheel drive, skid plates, and a removable top. 44 years later, the Bronco makes a grand return and comes with new modern features such as GOAT modes, electronic locking front and rear differentials, and removable tops and doors. Both Broncos were also designed with freedom in mind. You have the freedom to customize it the way you want. Whether it's for extreme off-roading, daily driving, or a blend of both, you have the freedom to embark on adventures and enjoy the American way of life. That's why we've decided to add a new line of products for the 6th gen Bronco. Wild Horses has been preserving the Bronco legacy for over 35 years, so we wanted to hear directly from the community their thoughts on classic versus new Broncos and see where they stand. Do they love the new Bronco? Do they prefer to stick with the classics, or are they wild enough to own both? Stick around to find out what the community had to say at the biggest gathering of Bronco enthusiasts on the planet. So right off the bat, for many enthusiasts, the big question is, did Ford nail it with the new Bronco? Did they knock it out of the park with the design compared to the classic Bronco? And did they live up to the Born Wild promise that the Bronco nameplate encompasses? With those questions in mind, I think it's time we pick the brains of true Bronco enthusiasts.
How do you think the design of the modern Bronco compares to the classic?
So they got a couple things right with the modern Bronco, the new Bronco. The shoulder on the hood, that really sets it apart. It makes it look like a Bronco. The fenders, I feel like, look like garbage.
Interesting take from John Melton.
From what I'm experienced with, this is a lot smaller, it's easier to handle. Obviously, these are more modern. I don't have to worry about, trying to get the carburetor to go or any of that. I can easily tell, what my speed is. And if I do put bigger tires on, instead of guesstimating like you used to, we can go in, find out for sure, and change it.
I think it did a great job. I got a 4-door. I like the 2-door because I think that's more true to it, but the 4-door is more functional. So yeah, I stuck with the functionality of it, but I think with the headlights and the front end, I think they did a great job with it. There's a good mix between modern and classic.
Without making a classic Bronco out of plastic, essentially.
It looks better than the one The Rock did a couple years back.
Right, I think we all agree on that one.
You are horrifying to look at.
Obviously, when it comes to design comparisons between old and new, there is a slew of thoughts and opinions. Fortunately for us, there is a lot more to explore than just the looks. What some would argue is the more important question: how capable is the new Bronco off-road?
What are your thoughts on the new Ford Bronco's off-road capabilities, and do you think it can match or surpass the classic Bronco?
Actually, I think it does because of the new technology and the new aftermarket frenzy supporting it. I think that a modified newer Bronco would probably be better in the long run if you spend the money in parts. Obviously, there's some issues with stock steering components, but you can upgrade those. So I mean, as far as the classic ones will always be very capable, but even watching some of your videos, seems like a lot of times I'm seeing the newer models make it look easier. And that may just be my perspective. And I'm not dogging the older models because you guys do a lot of those and you do a really good job with those and they are very capable. But I think with the new technology and suspension components, and the new engineering over the years, I think that inevitably you do have a little bit more functionality, if you can just, get past those barriers. I think a stock Bronco, even with Sasquatch, has limitations. But when you start putting 37s and lift like you have, like I have, more hardcore parts and stuff like that, I think you can raise that flexibility a lot higher.
Yeah, no, 100%. The word is modular, right? The hot word going around. It's tougher to do than, say, a solid axle because, there's a lot more going into it as far as geometry and stuff, but you can still build it to do pretty cool things, pretty hard things.
I really couldn't comment on that because I haven't driven one of the newer ones. I've read a lot about it with the GOAT modes and everything that they have. You know, they seem very capable. I'm kind of a non-computer guy. I like all the mechanicals, you know, what you're getting into when you turn the hubs in and lock it in, you know you're four-wheel drive. Pushing a button and maybe a light comes on and shows you, but just that manual putting some in, it kind of means something. Getting that feel and knowing is 10 times better, I think, than some of the buttons sometimes. Yeah.
Have you had a chance to test drive or ride in a new Bronco? How did it compare to a classic?
No, I haven't.
No? Do you have any desire to?
I'd like to.
Yeah, it's simple. Test them out, see what it's like.
I've taken the new Bronco off up 3 trails, 2 in Moab, 1 in Colorado, and driven it on the road. And I would say the new Bronco drives incredible. Like when you're in a classic Bronco, you're sweaty, you're like hot, your lockers work part of the time, you get vapor locked, like all these things happen. But the new Bronco, none of that happens.
While the classic Bronco has built the legendary off-road reputation that the new Bronco rides on, because of rising prices and collectability, the classic Bronco presence off-road has been slowly dwindling. While niche companies like ourselves still like pushing these classics to their limits, we can't blame someone for wanting to keep such a valuable vehicle in pristine condition, especially after dumping so much time and money into the build. While there are opinions on both sides of this aisle, some of the best people to ask are those who were fortunate enough to own both a classic and a modern Ford Bronco. And one of the biggest questions we had for them was, do they have a favorite between the two?
Do you have a favorite Ford Bronco among the ones that you own?
Definitely this.
This one. Interesting take.
The color is definitely my color.
The red one, again, because of that sentimental blood, sweat, and tears.
And when I say blood, sweat, and tears, I mean blood, sweat, and tears.
Heck yeah.
I almost cut one of my fingers off, you know, with the grinder. It's just, every time I would go out to the shop and work on it, I would come in holding my finger. My wife was like,
there's a reason it's red. No, heck yeah.
I do, yeah. Obviously, sentimental value of the first, it was my dad. That to me is the one.
How do you divide your time between driving your classic and your modern Bronco?
Well, the modern Bronco is mainly my wife's daily driver, so I only get to drive it like if we're going out to eat or whatever. But anytime that it's pretty like this right here and I have a chance, I'm driving the classics.
Okay, because you've got 2. Which one are you picking?
One that took me 6 years to restore.
There you go. Heck yeah. Why the 2 classics?
I've always wanted one since I was knee-high to a belly washer. So since I was a little kid, I always wanted one. And I finally, in 2015, got to the financial ability to purchase that one right there. So I purchased that one, worked on it from 2015, finished it up in 2020. And then a buddy of mine had this one right here, and he was getting ready to sell it. I had a 64.5 Mustang, and so I said, okay, let me sell that Mustang. I sold the Mustang and bought this one right here. I don't know, man, they're just American heritage, and they're awesome.
Well, it depends on what shows you go to, or if it could be like just a regular driving through a town or something like that. But I drive this one myself because I like the air conditioning and all the good stuff that comes with it. Now, the old ones, of course, are in my era, like when I grew up. So those ones are tremendously probably the better ones that everybody likes to get. They want to buy those. They want to buy the older ones.
Well, how long have you had the old one for?
A few years, not very long. It's still in a work in progress.
Okay. Does it run?
Yes, it does.
It does. Okay, there you go. You're a leg up than some people. Have you taken both your classic and modern Ford Broncos off-roading? And if so, which one do you prefer off-roading?
The classic I drove in high school. I definitely had fun. I was the only one with it. It was just a stock Bronco, open diffs. The modern Bronco that I have, the 6th gen, is more capable. I have not taken ours, but I've been to Bronco off-rodeo, the stay bar disconnect and the locking differentials, obviously, and the bigger tires, because you know that when the Bronco comes stock, it comes with those little bitty donuts, you know.
So basically, you know, doing the mudding and just kind of goofing around in high school, haven't done much of that since. It's kind of got that pretty classic vibe now where you don't really want to thrash it. The new one, you know, like you said, doing the donuts and stuff like that, eventually you're going to take it doing some real off-road type stuff.
It's a first edition, so I'll probably, if I do a 6th gen, I'll probably buy a base model and build it with lock.
Here's one question that we do have to, it's not on the list, but we got to kind of figure out, is this technically / officially your wife's Bronco?
Every time I say my Bronco, she'll either say our Bronco or my Bronco. So I tell people I don't own a Bronco. My wife owns Broncos.
There you go.
That's
It's her responsibility.
She owns two, yeah. This is all her. But for some reason, I have to do the oil changes and stuff. I don't know why.
No.
Yeah, neither of them. Do you ever plan to?
I would like to, but I don't think my husband will let me.
You do have the wild track.
I know, it's got all the features. I don't know, do I want to?
It's a tough decision.
Like thing where you don't want it to get a rock chip. You don't want anything to happen to it. I still think that it's my baby now, you don't want anything to happen to it.
For myself personally, many of these questions are hard to answer. Air conditioning and a radio off-road sound like a beautiful combination, but unfortunately, my classic Bronco doesn't have those amenities. Shoot, I'm happy when the thing starts up and drives. I think what most people realize is that while there aren't many things as cool as driving a classic Bronco through some of the most beautiful trails in the world, there are easier ways to do it. Those creature comforts and reliability really start to stake a claim when the wild decides to be wild.
I'm wild! I'm wild!
But what people also realize, and what I continue to realize, is that there truly is a time and a place for both. And that time and place is up to you, the owner and the driver. If you're pulling your early Bronco out for a cruise to a show and shine and driving your new Bronco as a daily with some off-road adventure sprinkled in, that's fine. If you can't quite justify taking your brand new Bronco off-road, but your classic Bronco is a beater that you can thrash off-road, guess what? That's fine. And if you only have one, but you're considering buying another one, then let's hear what Bronco owners have to say about that.
What advice would you give to someone who is considering owning both a classic and a modern?
Do it.
Do it.
Do it. Just do it!
Here we go.
Do it.
Explain that for the people who need to know.
I think you get a better appreciation, definitely, as you know, Jen. I mean, where the lines are, just how they put it together. And then you have a reliable vehicle that you can take those 10-hour road trips in. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Very true.
Buy both.
The second one to say that. Why? You gotta expound on that.
I don't know, just to compare them, the way they built the new ones. I just think that when they started building these newer ones, they kind of almost didn't look like, the newer, like the smaller, newer ones. But once you seen these, then you think, oh my gosh, that looks like the old Bronco from way back when.
That's almost spot on to the answer that we asked somebody else, is because you can kind of appreciate both of them, so.
If you haven't figured it out yet, this is what happens when nostalgia and progress collide. The return of the new Bronco awakened a part of American culture that seemed to have been dormant for many years. While kept alive by other off-roading communities like Jeep, Toyota, and yes, the early Bronco off-roaders, America has never seen such a surge in interest for the outdoors until the Bronco was put back on the map. While we may see fewer and fewer classics returning to the wild, the presence of the Bronco is far from fading. New and returning enthusiasts are actively participating in the shared passion that connects the old and new Broncos alike. Regardless of the era, the Bronco symbolizes the freedom to roam, the thrill of conquering obstacles, and the joy of exploring the great outdoors. So whether you own a classic Bronco, a new Bronco, both, or neither, getting outdoors and exploring responsibly is part of the American DNA. And because of vehicles like the Ford Bronco, we can bank on doing it more enjoyably as well. So get out there and explore that subscribe button, and with all of that being said, we will see you guys out there on the trail. Peace!